everybody, and welcome to Think, Engage, Thrive, our show about entrepreneurship, where every week we try and bring you inspiring and innovative entrepreneurs. Tonight, we've got a great one, and I think a lot of people are going to resonate with this one. We have Katie Santoro on, and Katie is a burnout survivor. And the reason I say that most people are going to, or a lot of people are going to resonate with this one is, as I get a lot of people who want my coaching, um, a lot of entrepreneurs, and many, I can't tell you how many calls I get a week, or emails, or contacts about people that are working in corporate America that are burned out and want to take the leap. And it's not about money, and it's not about starting a business or ego. It's mostly about freedom, and it's mostly about the ability to sort of make your own decisions and control your own life. That's what people are looking for more than almost anything. And we've heard that from a lot of entrepreneurs about freedom. Freedom has come up a lot. And Katie was in the insurance business, burned out. She just was tired of that sort of rut that you get in, as I'm sure a lot of people can understand. And she left that job and she started her own yoga studio, which was great. And then COVID hit, and obviously we know that story. We've heard it a million times. And so she then transitioned into what she has now, which is a virtual assistant company. So she provides assistance to people in whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a business owner, whoever you are. So this sort of helps people avoid their burnout, in a way. So we'll hear more about her now as I bring her into the show. So Katie, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I did a bit of an intro. I got everybody sort of prepped as to what you were doing, but it's always better to hear it directly from you because I usually mess it up and miss pieces and don't say everything correctly. So we go into the background a little bit about you, what you've done, where you've been, and sort of how you've gotten there. So give us a little taste of what you're all about.
Sure, the Cliff Notes. So I started my career in the legal world. I started as a paralegal, and then I moved into the insurance world as a claims examiner. And it's all the boxes you're supposed to check, right? Like you go to college and you start your career, and you're excited to go out and dress up and go to the office every day. And I was doing all the things that I was supposed to be doing. And I think it was about 2017, and my current husband, who was not my husband at the time, and I were on vacation. And we were in Costa Rica, and it was beautiful. And we're sitting having cocktails one night, and I said, is this life? Like, is this what we've worked so hard to do so that we can have 2 weeks a year of vacation? Like, did we work our butts off so that we have zero freedom? Kind of that golden handcuff chained to the desk. And he said, if you could do anything in life, what would you do? And I said, oh, I'd quit my job and open a yoga studio. He said, well, how do you do that? And I said, I have no idea, but I'm going to figure it out. So almost a year to the week of that trip, I opened my yoga studio. I was still working full time in my job. I still had, a mortgage and bills to pay. And so the yoga studio was a side hustle at first. About early 2019, I realized I had burnout. And the way that I realized was I had a friend visiting from out of town, and she came with her husband and her child, and they're from out of the country. So it was a long journey to come with a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any time for them, and I didn't have any patience. I didn't get to, do the things that you want to do, cook and hang out and snuggle on the couch and do all those things. And she left, and I just kind of said to myself, I was like, I'm destroying my relationships. Like, I've gotten so deep into doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing and overachieving and running a business and working full time. So I made the decision to leave. I made it in a very adult way. I waited for some stocks to vet. So I made the decision in April to leave. I didn't actually leave until September, and it was probably the longest 6 months of my life. I left in September 2019. I was running the yoga studio. It was going great. I was healing from my burnout, it was about a 6-month healing journey. I would say it was pretty intense. And COVID happened. I closed the yoga studio. I took it all digital. I was teaching classes from my house on Zoom. And again, I went to my husband and I was like, I got to go back to work. Like, I've got, rent to pay on the studio space. And he said, absolutely not. He was like, you were a monster. And it's true. I was a monster. He said, what else can you do? And I was like, I've always thought about like doing some freelance work as a paralegal. I could do that, or, just some admin things, or use the skills that I have from marketing, maybe even. And I started to freelance, and it just kind of snowballed from there. People at that time were hungry for really reliable and consistent and intelligent virtual assistants. People were leaving their jobs left and right, and trying to freelance. And freelance isn't an easy thing to do. You really have to have dedication
Yeah. Yeah.
and skill, because there's no one there to teach it to you. You
Yeah.
have to do what you're doing. So I got really busy, and the busier that I got, I, brought on more clients and started recruiting my friends who were in similar positions, who had left the workforce or were not going to go back because of the constraints of childcare at the time. And we've just kind of grown from there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great story. We see it from outside. We have a lot of clients that are corporate focused, a lot of brands, and the people that are working in there that we interface with, they're always busy. They're always on. They schedule a meeting. It's 30 minutes. They've, trying to get in touch with them. They respond to you at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night because they were in meetings all day. And I can see how that could be wearing. I know I go back to I had a business that got purchased by a larger company, and then I had to go work there for a couple of years, and it was not a pleasant experience for me or them. I can guarantee you I was not a model person, because I think the way I think, and I think in corporate you have to sort of follow this model of think. Nobody likes to step outside the box and risk it.
Yeah. Well, and it's also go, 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 right? There's not really a point where like your boss is never going to come to you and say, you seem really burned out. You need to just take a little bit of time for yourself. That's not what's going to happen. There's always that idea of like, try harder, achieve more, move to the next step, move into management, or, move up the corporate ladder. There's always somewhere else to go. And if you're an overachiever like I am, you're going to push for that, and you're going to push for that at your own detriment.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking about the conversation you had with your husband, saying, "Is this really what we worked for? Is this?" And while you were saying it, I was thinking back. I I I started my first business when I was 27. It was a total disaster. I've talked about how bad it was. It was just a total lack of leadership, a breakdown of leadership. I was not good at managing process. The whole thing was bad. But when I sold that business, I took the money and I went to graduate school. And I also got involved with another company while I was in graduate school, as just an investor and helping them out. And I remember, all my friends that were students were all focused on getting jobs at places like the World Bank and banks and finance, and they were they were so tense about it, and I just didn't have that same approach, because I always knew I was never gonna. I knew from early on that I was not good in corporate America. I know that. Um, I'm good to a certain point, but I could never be a vice president of such and such in a bank. It would drive me. I think it would drive me nuts. But
Yeah. And a lot of entrepreneurs say that. They say, I just didn't feel like I fit in corporate America. And
yeah,
I felt that too. I've always kind of marched to the beat of my own drum. And you can't really do that in corporate America. So yeah, it's a common feeling amongst entrepreneurs, I think.
yeah, we've heard it a number of times on when you start talking about what was the reason. Money never comes up. It doesn't. Nobody ever says, "Well, I did this because I want to get rich."
No,
That's
that's why we stay in corporate. That's, the money is in the corporate, not in entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And I mean, the money comes eventually, but it's to me, and it's the freedom. It's always been the freedom. And it's not just the freedom to make my own schedule, because I work hard and all my people work hard, and I've worked 60, 70, 80 hours. So it's not like that. But it's the freedom to make your own decision, and the freedom to be held accountable for your own decision. I'm not sitting here getting a mandate from somebody else to say, this is what I want you to do every day. I determine it. And if I'm wrong, that's on me. And I have been wrong, and it has been on me. So it's that kind of freedom. I want to be able to say, this is what we're going to do today.
Yep.
So,
And in so for River City Virtual Assistants, I have employees. We've got about a team of 18, and I've had to step into the leadership role, which for me was it was hard to wrap my mind around because I had had so many bad leaders in the past, so many
yeah,
people who were toxic. So I always say I have a business partner, my COO, Megan. I always say to Megan, just because things have been done one way doesn't mean that we have to continue doing them. We learned that corporate America was not for us. So let's look at what didn't work for us there. And for me, it's leadership. So I now have the freedom to lead people the way that I want to lead them, to lead them with boundaries. And I say we have a very trauma-informed workplace. We don't accept any kind of toxic behavior or belittling. So that's been really great freedom for me too,
yeah.
not just in my time, but in being able to, lead how I want to lead and treat people the way that I want to treat them.
Yeah, that's important. I think leadership is grossly misunderstood. And I think people perceive leadership as micromanagement, and it's really not. Two entire. I think micromanagers are weak. I look
Mm-hmm.
at them and I think to myself, you don't you didn't either you didn't hire the right people and you have to micromanage them, or you just don't know how to lead. And yeah, I'm not. I know what my strengths and my weaknesses are. I've had enough experience and personality tests and all kinds of things to understand what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. So when I bring people on and I hire people, they have to support what I'm not good at. And I tell them right away what I'm not good at. And I'm not the type of person who I don't want you to do what I tell you to do. I will say, this is what I think we should do. And if people come back and say, I don't think you're right, I'll listen, and if they're right, they're right. We'll try it. I'll try anything. Be
Yeah.
honest. You ask my folks, and they'll say, I don't know if this is right, and I'll say, try it. We'll try it. If it fails, it fails, and we'll try something else. So
Yeah. And failure is a mindset, right? Like, I don't think that anything that we do is a failure. It's an opportunity for us to learn and to make some adjustments. And I'm the same. I want my team to tell me when they think I'm wrong. Like, please tell me I'm wrong, or tell me what I should be doing. Like,
yeah,
you guys direct me, because I can only support you as much as you tell me that you need my support.
yeah,
So I want them to come to me and like, please tell me if I'm messing up. My feelings aren't going to be hurt. And if my feelings are hurt, then I need to sit with that and figure out why I'm upset about that.
yeah,
Um, so
yeah. I
there's a
love
lot
it.
of like being very kind of introspective in leadership.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I
much.
think if you can't take a step back and look at yourself. In my particular case, I have a great wife who tells me when I'm wrong and points out the things that I shouldn't. She doesn't do it mean. My wife is extremely good at it, but she'll tell me when I'm certain things that I'm doing, and I
Yeah.
have some great people around me that will tell me that work with me, and so it doesn't get out of hand,
Yeah.
because I know what my tendencies are. I know I've again I've been with myself for a long time. I know exactly what I do wrong.
Yeah.
So,
My business partner Megan, we've known each other for over 30 years. I
wow.
hate to admit that we've known each other a really long time. So it's like a whole new meaning to work wife, right? Like, we know each other so well that we can just be like, I think you're acting like this because that one time in the sixth grade, that one person said that thing to you, and we can call each other out on it. And it's amazing to have somebody who can kind of reflect back at you what they're seeing.
Yeah,
So it's very helpful.
yeah. Let's take a step back. Let's go back a bit to this burnout
Yeah.
concept, because I know what burnout feels like for me. But what do you think burnout is? How could you describe that to people?
So, in a physical sense, for me, there's the physical like manifestation of the hormones that are happening, right? The cortisol hormones and all that. So weight gain, skin breaking out. I I couldn't handle anything. Like the smallest thing would set me off. My patience was super short. I constantly felt like I needed to be doing something. I couldn't relax. I wasn't sleeping. I was also when I was going all through all this training for a half marathon, because why wouldn't I put more on my plate? And every second of every day, I felt like if I wasn't filling that time, then I wasn't being productive and I wasn't doing what I needed to do. And it snowballed. Um, it was more than that too. It was also like the spiritual aspect of it, right? Like I completely lost who I was and like my true self. And that's something I had to seek in my healing. My yoga practice really helped me with that.
Yeah.
Um, but really, like when I look back at the worst of it, I was just exhausted and had no patience for anything. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
it
know.
was nasty. I was mean.
Yeah. I'm sure. I, uh, I know we throw that term around. Like you hear people all the time. Oh, I'm so burned out this week. I just need this weekend to come, and then they start the grind again. Um,
It's like I said, it took me 6 months. I kind of joke, like I locked myself in my office and sat alone for 6 months, but that's really a lot of what I did. A lot of meditation, a lot of yoga, but not in the like, I'm going to go hard and like do a really like hard, hot class, like very gentle movements and just taking care of myself and letting that energy unwind.
yeah.
You can't fix it in a weekend.
No, 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 no,
No.
no.
And once it's happened, at least for me, my experience has been that now that I've gone past that tipping point to like full blown burnout, I can't handle stress the same way anymore. And I have to be really conscious about my energy because I feel like I'm more likely to tip. When we started to come out of lockdowns, I really struggled with like everything, like this sensory overload, right, of being in public, and that started to tip me over as well into that same kind of energetic burnout. So
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm more aware of it now or if it just is easier to happen because it's already happened, the pathway is already open.
yeah, yeah. That's good. I mean, it's good retrospective and introspection to what's happening. I know, the lockdown was sort of a tipping point for a lot of people. I witnessed a lot of people who couldn't handle it, and it wasn't necessarily burnout. They just couldn't handle the lack of interaction, or because talking to people on Zoom, having meetings on Zoom is okay, but it's not the same. And a lot of people I know didn't have a great support system. So I think having people at home that were all locked up together helped, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think a lot of people it stressed out a lot of people, and some of the people that worked with us just they couldn't deal with it. Some of the people, uh, we had a lot of young people that were in their apartments and by themselves, and it played havoc with them. And they wound up saying, after, because initially, right, when we first got the lockdown, it was, I think, supposed to be for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something. And then that turned into 2 months. And I think at that point it was, where's this going? And, oh, you can't go out. Oh, you can't do this. A lot of people said, forget it, and packed up and moved to their parents just to have people around them. And then when
Yeah.
somebody did get COVID, it was like, oh, you have to quarantine in your room and we'll leave the food outside. It was really a weird, weird time, but
I know we were like Lysoling Amazon packages.
yeah,
It was a very weird time, like cleaning your groceries with like Lysol wipes. It was a very odd time. We'll
yeah,
look back at it one day. Um, but for me, the lockdowns came at the perfect time. I needed less people. I needed to be alone. I needed to
yeah.
sit in silence. So for me, I kind of thrived in it. But I'm an introvert, and I know the extroverts out there didn't fare so well.
No, no, they didn't do so well. Yeah. I personally had a great lockdown experience because all the kids were home from school. They couldn't do anything. My wife was working from home. I was working from home. So every day after work and school and everything, we would take the dogs for a walk, and we'd have dinner together, and we didn't get that for a long time. So I think in that respect it was good, but I think it was difficult on the kids doing school from even college from via Zoom. I think and
Yeah.
obviously for business it wasn't easy. It was a difficult time for business, but
Yeah.
thank God we made it through. So and I think yoga was probably a great tool at that time for you.
Yeah, and I still use it. I still practice a couple of days a week. I have a little yoga studio off in my bedroom, and I really have to make time for myself to decompress and unwind, or I'll tip, because I'm always going to be an overachiever, no matter how much I try and recover. And I think that burnout is really, for me, it was my own expectation of myself. I was constantly fighting against my own expectation of myself. Um, so being able to like take time and unwind at the end of the day allows me to reset, so I don't constantly push.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good thing.
Mhm.
I did. I can't tell now because I've gained a bit of weight, but I used to do marathons, half marathons, and triathlons, and I found it was great for me.
Mhm.
It was actually a de-stressor for me
Yeah.
because I can only you're out there running for whatever it is, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and you're in your own head. There's nothing you
Yep.
can do, and it's all really up to you. And I found it to be when I started doing triathlons, I found swimming to be the most relaxing. It was just there was just something about it, though.
The
Something
water
about being in the water.
aspect.
Yeah,
Yeah, water's so healing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and the cycling, running.
Mhm.
Is running is always difficult for people, right? But
Yeah.
but when you think about it, you're out there. It's just
Yeah.
what it,
I when the lockdowns first started and I was trying to figure out this business, I was still running a lot. I've had to give it up because my joints are old. I cycle now and I do a bunch of other things and I walk a lot with the dogs, but like that's so healing. Just out with your feet, just one in front of the other. Like
yeah,
when you feel like you can't do anything, when you're just overwhelmed with everything, that's something that you don't even have to think. Your body's just going to move you through it, and it's so meditative on its own. So I miss running. My joints don't miss running, but I miss it.
yeah. I actually did my last half marathon 2 years ago.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
My business partner runs them. She just did the one in Austin last weekend. She coaches the half marathon team.
Oh wow, that's great.
Yeah. So
So, so with the yoga studio and then with this business, what do you think? What were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome? What are some of the things you hit, and any kind of moment where you thought, "I'm not going to make it," or
that's like a daily thought as a business owner, right? Like there's at least once a day where you're like, what am I doing? Um, but the yoga studio, when I first opened, I had this software and I could not master it. And I cried and I was like, I made the biggest mistake. I can't run my operational software. And I figured it out because I had to. Another obstacle with the yoga studio, which I've since turned into an opportunity with River City Virtual Assistants, is I hired an assistant and I knew how to be an assistant, but I didn't know how to delegate to an assistant. And Phil, I could not tell you one thing that my assistant did for me in the 4 months that she worked for me. I paid her, but I never asked her to do anything. Like I didn't know how to delegate. And that was a problem because I could have used that help. Like it
yeah,
really would have been helpful for me for someone else to do things. So now with River City Virtual Assistants, we work with our clients to help them learn how to delegate. So
yeah,
if they're having trouble and they're not able to pass things off to the assistant, we'll sit down with them and we'll say, what are you struggling with? What's on your plate? How can we give this to the assistant? And then from our side, from the leadership and employment side of the assistants, we say, how do we train this assistant to make sure they can fully support this client?
yeah,
So just kind of looking at how I struggled as a business owner and then reapplying it to how we can help support other business owners has been a really fun lesson and a really like interesting way to build out what we do.
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to be able to, I guess, not understanding how to delegate, but then being into a business where you have to teach people to delegate.
Mhm.
Um, I've always been a decent delegator. I can tell you, the least amount of work to do, if I can get it all off my plate, I would. But and
I hear you.
I'd rather just be a facilitator and know when deadlines have to be and make sure
Mhm.
everybody's hitting them. But it doesn't always
Yep.
work out that way.
Yeah, there's a little bit of both. As we've grown, I've really worked on delegating. I use delegation as a way to duplicate myself, right? Like teach
Yeah,
someone this skill that I have that I've been doing, allow them the opportunity to grow with it. And then we always say like, I wish there was more of me. Well, there can be. If you delegate and you train somebody to do what you do, you've just cloned yourself, and then that opens you up to doing more things.
yeah,
But but you've got to give up things as you do more things. That's the trick. You can't just keep on doing all the things. You keep on giving them up. So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's been really rewarding in growing the business.
yeah, yeah. So we have to take a quick break, and we'll come back in about 2 minutes.
That's good.
So this show and all the shows are brought to us by our. We're exposed to over 5,000 ads every day. We see ads everywhere. So it's no surprise that consumers need to see an ad multiple times before they take action. Our clients love us because Crunch Growth makes your brand stand out online. Our team creates content that makes better ads, better posts, better videos that break through the clutter. CrunchGrowth's team has been working in the digital world since the dawn of e-commerce. From social media to advertising to Amazon management to web design and development to branding, we help your brand succeed online profitably. Contact us at www.crunchgrowth.com. And we're back. So we were just talking about delegating and any obstacles because I know that um, we talk a lot in this show about with startup entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs who have scaled and they look back and they think about sort of when they started and those moments when you feel like I don't know if I made the right decision. I don't know if I'm going to make it out of this. I don't know if I did this right. Have you had had any of those experiences
Hmm.
that have kept you up at night?
Oh gosh, everything keeps me up at night. But yes, so it was, I think, the beginning of 2022. I had an offer to go back to work, and we've moved, so we're further away from the city that we used to live in the city. Now we're in like the rural suburbs, and we had just gotten two puppies, and we had just gotten married, and my mom had just moved in with us. So like huge life changes. And I got this opportunity to go back to work. And I was at a point in my business where I wasn't, I wasn't delegating. We weren't working with packages. We didn't have the same setup that we have now. And I almost took the offer. And the thing that stopped me was they wouldn't offer me work from home. And I didn't want to spend an hour and a half every day driving back and forth to work, because I knew that would be really hard on my mental health. I wouldn't get my exercise and my alone time and all those things. So I turned it down. And at the same time, my business partner, Megan, came to me. She wasn't my business partner at the time. And she was going through burnout herself. She has four children. Daycare was closing left and right. Her youngest are twins, and they were, one at the time. And she was going through some pretty major life changes as well. And she said, "Can I come work for you?" And I said, "You know what? Like, I can't do this alone anymore. Why don't you come work with me? I know exactly how this business needs to be set up. I've been doing the freelance and kind of like working, contracting in friends for long enough that I know that we can make this into something more, and let's do it." So that was my moment. Like, I was so ready to give up because I couldn't get the full momentum that I needed to make it profitable for me,
Yeah,
without help.
yeah,
So it was possibly one of my first delegation moments where I was like, "Hey, like, this is what I need to do. There's just not enough of me. Come help." So yeah, we didn't give up, and we actually I kind of had to double down because I convinced my friend who was a mother of 4 to leave her job and do this with me. So we had to double down so we could make it work.
That's it's funny that you say that because we've had a couple of startup uh, people on here, guys that have been successful, started the business, grew the business, scaled the business, and sold the business. And there's two things. The first is there was a point in time, there was like an inflection point where they felt that it was either I'm either going in all in or I have to get out. And it sounds like that's what when you said I doubled down, and they felt like that was a turning point for them. There was one entrepreneur we had on here who was building a software company. He had two partners in it, and one of the partners started to flake out, and the other one was sort of half in. And he said, "You know what? We're either in or out." And he basically took the reins and put him, he put his life on the line essentially, or and we talk a lot about fear because fear tends to hold people back, especially in the world of entrepreneurship. And one thing I tell people when I coach them, or young entrepreneurs, or people that are struggling, or they haven't scaled and they're afraid. They're like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to get in any further." It's like, well, especially when you're young, what's going to happen? You're not going to die. The most that happens is you lose money. Okay, you can recover from that. You may have to work a different job or something, but you'll recover. And maybe
Yeah.
you'll come up with your second idea, but you're not going to die.
Yeah. And wouldn't it be, for me, it would be even worse to make it to 95 and be like, and not have done the things that I wanted to do,
Yeah,
to wonder at that late in life if I had missed something.
yeah,
And I may still, right, like I'm sure there's things in life that I'm gonna miss, but at least I know that I made the leap out of corporate America to do my own thing and be my own boss and be the leader that I want to be.
yeah,
I had one of my very first clients. He's still a client with us. He's with one of our other assistants now. He The first time I talked to him, he said, "Your fear is full of fill in the blank." And I wrote it on a sticky note, and it was like the first page in my notebook that I opened every day. And I looked at it, and it's so true. Like, you can move past fear. It's full of, I'm not going to use the word, but yeah.
yeah. Well, I always thought about it in terms of when you're working out, right? Or when you're running a race, or when you're doing anything. It's you know it's quitting is forever, right?
Mhm.
Pain is temporary, but quitting's forever. And it's the same thing with entrepreneurship. It is sort of painful at times. You worry, you're fearful, you might not make it. I mean, I can tell you early on in some of the things I've done in my life, with some of the businesses, that there's Fridays where I'm taking money out of my credit cards to make payroll. And but I always believed that we would get over the hump, and 90% of the time we did. I mean, there were times when we didn't make it out alive, but it's part of the game. But
Yeah.
you know, yeah,
Yeah. You're never going to regret trying,
no,
even if you fail. I mean, you learn something, right? And if you learn something, you haven't failed at all. You've learned something new. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And if you keep doing it, then you're just insane.
Yeah, we all might be a little crazy. It's definitely, running your own business is not for the faint of heart. That's for sure.
No, no, I
Yeah.
don't think entrepreneurship is for the faint of heart, but
No.
it is. We had someone else on because this is another sort of, I don't want to say phenomenon, but of entrepreneurship. I can't think of a better word than phenomenon right now. But when, and I've experienced this myself. You spend time, you start a business, you spend time building the business, and for years and years you're going and you're overcoming obstacles, and you get the business to a certain point, and then somebody comes along and wants to buy it. and you make the decision to sell, and you think to yourself, man, this is going to be great. I am done. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to sit in my yard staring out at the woods with my dogs and drink coffee, and that's going to be my life. And then it all happens, right? Because when you're doing that transaction, it takes a lot out of you, and then it's done. And then you go into this depression because
Yeah.
you feel like, I have, what am I going to do with my life now? And it's really difficult to overcome. And there's actually a whole industry of coaches to help after the sale. And we had one guy on not too long ago who talked about it because he experienced it himself, and now he's got sort of the tools to do that. But I think about what you were talking about with burnout, and I think about it almost in the same way. After you're done and you're out, it takes you a while to sort of get yourself back together, you know.
Hmm. Yeah. Thank God for coaches and therapy. I mean, you need it. When I closed my yoga studio, I felt like I had failed, and of course, I had to kind of wrap my mind around it. And looking back now, it was successful. I navigated my way out of a lease. I was able to, walk away from it with a little bit of money to help me with this company. Like, it wasn't a failure, but it was hard to give up the first business that I started. Like, it was
Yeah.
sad. It was like giving, and I struggled with whether or not I should fully give it up. But at that point in time, we didn't know when we'd be able to be back in person. So it was the right choice, but there's definitely there's a grieving period behind it.
Yeah. Well, that was a whole different world. I mean, that's closing for all the wrong reasons.
Mhm.
It's not that you did something wrong or you didn't advertise or couldn't get clients or people weren't
Yeah.
happy. It was the external environment, which not something that people ever could plan for or perceive. So I yeah, I can understand that one. It
Yeah.
would be it would be tough. And I know a lot of people that were in that sort of gym world, in different ways that had to shut down and tried to do it online, tried to do it through um, some people that did it in parks and were, videoing it, and try. It was a wild. It really was a wild time.
It was. But glad we're through it.
Yeah, we are. Um, so yeah, I was going to say when you talked about therapy, I think I think therapy is a great tool for entrepreneurs because, and there are, I don't know if you've ever heard of Entrepreneurs Organization, EO or YPO or any of those, YEO.
Mm.
No, it's an organization of entrepreneurs, but they have this process. Yeah, it's a networking piece, and you're there with other people, but they have this process of having these. You break out into groups, so you'll have a group of people that you're with. Um, like there's 4 or 5 of you and you meet once a month, and every person talks about one. This month it may be one person who's going to bring problems from their business to the group to help them, and it could be anything. It could be even be problems in your personal life, and it's sort of a group therapy session amongst yourselves, and I find that kind of thing helpful. I think
Yeah.
that um, especially in business, you need people. You need to talk about your business with people other than your family, because your family gets tired of hearing about it, and you
Yeah.
need to talk to people about what the struggles. So
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of however you want to do it, even if it's your therapist, which I'm a big fan of therapy.
Yeah.
It's
And
helpful.
so I'm doing a group this year. It's called Swell, and it's a local group, but very similar. There's different cohorts, and you're matched with other women who are either entrepreneurs or in some kind of life transition out of their career or whatever. And we get together once a month, and same thing. We talk about our problems with, whatever it might be, business or life. And when you're an entrepreneur, we say this all the time to our clients because we kind of go back and forth between like an executive assistant and a personal assistant. You can't divide your business from your life, no matter how much you want to, no matter how much people tell you you have to. Like, if your life is going awry, your business is going awry, and if your business is going awry, your life is going awry. So you really need to be able to find balance in both of them. So I feel like personal and business are, they're so intertwined.
Yeah, I
So
would
that
agree.
group has been really great for me. And then of course my therapist is really great for me. And I'm really excited. We're building out our benefits package, and we're adding an EAP, which is not expensive for an employer to add. And that allows us access to Talkspace, which is like an online therapist. It also allows our team members access to that. And then they also offer like coaching for the executives of the team. So I love anything that is going to like give me insight and let me be self-reflective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we did a thing. I had this business early on in the late '90s, and we went on a retreat. I had stores, so I took all the store managers and myself and CFO and everybody, and we had this person. I don't remember what his specific title was, but he was he was sort of a coach of interpersonal skills. And the first day you sat around and everybody talked about what they didn't like about anybody, working, what problems did. So you had to have thick skin, you
Yeah.
had, and it's okay to do that every once in a while. And if you do it in the right way, it can be kind of funny. But then towards the end of the day, we all took this personality assessment test, and then the coach at the time took it, and he I'm sure he ran it through a computer and scanned it, and he came out with all these visuals. I have to find mine, it's somewhere, but it tells you exactly what type of person you are. And his point was, keep this on your desk so that when people, although we didn't really have a lot of desks, but keep this with you so your people know what type of person they're dealing with. And you could see the next day we sort of went through it all, and everybody was talking about what type of person they were, and you can almost see why there was issues with this, why I had an issue with this person, or why I had an issue with this person, because I'm not I'm not detail oriented and they are, and they need to understand all these different, and I think, oh, why do you have to do that, so it's interesting. You talk
Yeah.
about introspective. It's interesting to do personality tests and find out what type of person you are and how you interface.
Yeah. And we have, as we've grown, we've like, as you know, when we match assistants, we try to match them with a client based on personality and skill set and availability, those things. But sometimes we miss the mark. Like sometimes, what we get from somebody in an interview and in a discovery call is completely different than how they present to each other. And sometimes we have some major personality conflicts, and we have to step in, and we're fully managed, so we manage everything for them. But one of the things that we started doing is, throughout our process, I create what we call a why, what, how statement. So why does this person need an assistant? What do they need done? How do we do it? And that's kind of us working through what we can do and how we do it. And then as we pass it over to our onboarding team, we create a user manual, and it's a user manual for what does success look like for you? How do you know that this relationship is going to be, how do you know when it is successful? How do you give feedback? How do you receive feedback? How do you communicate? And communication, some people are like short and sweet in their communication. Some people need a little bit more love and hand holding in their communication, but also like, do you want a text message? Do you want an email? Because so much context can be lost in those types of communication. So we build this user manual, and what it does is I think it gives people like this container of safeness. So going back to, I call it like our trauma-informed workspace, where we want to make sure everybody feels safe so that they can be their best. That's what we do. We create this little owner's manual or user's manual, and we share it with the assistants so that they can always go back to it as they work with the client to kind of know, how to communicate and how to give feedback and all that.
Yeah,
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 that,
that's
that
good.
gets a lot of safety.
Yeah, it's good because I think about how I do it all the time, and when I talk to somebody like you, and then I'll sit here tonight and I'll think about how I communicate with people, because I've been called on it a bunch of times. I don't have a lot of when I send an email, I don't even say sometimes, I don't even say hi. I just, it's like, here's the da 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 da, because that's how I'm doing it. And I don't mean to be rude. I'm not trying to be rude. It
Yeah.
just, I don't think about that.
Yeah.
And
And I do the same, because when you're communicating via email, like your thoughts are so far ahead of what you're actually writing. Like you've already thought through it, that you're not thinking about like the niceties. And like I, if I want to say something to a team member and I want to make sure that it comes across really nicely, I send them a message and I say, hey, let's hop on a video call. This is exactly what I want to talk about, and you're not in trouble. Because anytime the boss says, let's get on a call, everybody freaks out. They're like, what did we do wrong? So creating that safety again and saying, this is what I want to talk about. Let's get on a call. Because I know that my sarcasm is not going to come through an email and it's going to sound snarky. Whereas on a phone call, they're going to understand what I'm trying to say. So yeah, just a lot gets lost in translation in emails. A lot.
oh, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I have to force myself sometimes. I have to stop before I push the send. And I have to think about what I'm saying and how that's going to come across, because it's true. I don't 90% of the time I get an email from somebody who's like, hi Phil, how you doing? Just wanted to check in, blah 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 blah. But when I send it, it's like, we have to do this, this, and this.
Phil, I think we could create you some really good prompts for Chat GPT, where you can say, hey, Chat GPT, please rewrite this email in a nice, kind way. You can just pop it in. It'll write it for you. It'll be great.
Oh, believe me, I can't live without chat. I use it. I probably use it, but I don't use it for that type of stuff. We use it for building ads and building posts and that type of thing. I
Yeah.
do use it if I'm writing something like a business communication that, and somebody doesn't know me. So people that I interface with know me, so I'm not, you know I'm not being snarky. It's just that's who I am. But if I am you know communicating with somebody, then I will run it through chat and Grammarly, because I but we started using chat, not necessarily chat, but Jasper, about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. And I love AI. I think it's a great tool for people. All my folks use it, and it's not to take away people's jobs. I think it makes people's jobs more efficient. But I'll tell you what we use it for the most, and that's ideation. Because we have clients that are doing so many different things, and when you need some new ideas, you can go in there and start looking, start talking about ideas,
Yeah.
because sometimes you can't.
You don't know. Yeah, we help our clients do like content matrices, and you can use Chat GPT to generate, very quickly 100 different things
Yeah,
a client could write about, because we help support in like social media. We don't write the content for them, but we'll edit it and we'll post it. We'll schedule the posting, but we rely on the client as the expert to do the writing. But they need thought. They need like that thought process. So yeah, we use
yeah,
it in the same way, as a tool to come up with thoughts.
yeah. It's great for that. I love
Yeah,
it.
I
I
love
think
it.
it's
I love it.
fantastic.
Yeah. When we first started, we had a client request that his assistant, he had to give a speech at a wedding.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it was like a Star Wars theme or something. It was very
Oh,
odd
geez.
what came out, but it was quite a unique speech that ChatGPT came up with, and I wouldn't suggest using it for that.
Yeah.
We learned the hard way.
Early on, it was fun. It was funny, early on, over a year ago, a year and a half ago, when we first started getting into it. Again, we were using another product called Jasper, and people used to, within the company, they try and fool it. So, because if you ask Chat GPT to write an ad for cigarettes, it won't do it. It'll tell you not allowed to do it, right?
Oh, wow.
But you have to bluff it to figure out how to get it to do what you want. And so people were messing around with it for days trying to get it to write as an ad for cigarettes. And they sent it to me and said, see if you can get it to do it. I said, okay. And I did it in like 5 minutes. And they said, how'd you do it? I said, I told it to act as a 1940s ad man and write a cigarette ad for in a 1940s style.
Good. So it told you all about the health benefits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It doctor recommended, all that stuff. So it was funny because, but I like having fun with it. There was another contest that was going on with chat, which was, and this happened about a year ago, was guys that were, can you write a book with chat in a weekend? And they would lock themselves into their offices, order pizza, and then, just start pounding it. And they would come out with a book at the end and seeing if they could get it on Amazon and seeing if they could sell it. So it's interesting. It's interesting what it can do. And absolutely, as a time saver, I think it's great. So
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It's really helpful. You can't use it as the end all be all to your
no,
content
no.
writing, but it's such a great tool.
Yeah. So we're pretty much at the end. I appreciate your time, but we've got any last minute, any last parting words for people, especially, you know, I think this burnout piece is a big topic. So, and I think that women feel it more than men at times, because women, I think, have more pressure on them than men do, for a lot of obvious reasons. So, any parting words for
You
people? Doesn't even have to be about business. It could be
know,
about anything.
yeah, the woman aspect is really interesting. We're taught that we can have it all, but we're not told that we have to do it all. And when you reach that point, when you realize that like we've been a little duped here, it can be a little frustrating. But our mission is to craft a world free of burnout. So just remember that you don't have to do it all. Like there are people to help you, and being able to ask for help and delegate that to somebody else. It's like I said earlier, it's a gift to somebody else to allow them to use their skills to help you. And we say caretakers and parents in the workforce, which for us is mostly women, and it gives them the opportunity to work. They want to be working, they want to be helping other people succeed. So it's really, it's a back and forth support. Like by working with an assistant with River City Virtual Assistants, you're helping keep a woman in the workforce, and you're also helping yourself not reach burnout.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting way of looking at it. That, yeah, it's great. Hey, good luck. I think it's going to be a, a good business, and obviously, I think more and more people need assistance. So the ability to have virtual assistants and, not have to hire those people directly. I just started thinking while you were saying that, there's a lot of, women, I think probably wealthy women who have households to run that probably could use virtual assistants as well. So it's not just businesses, right? It's,
Yeah. We do
yeah.
personal assistance as well. There's so much mental burden that mothers carry, like figuring out summer camp and
Oh, yeah.
childcare schedules and all those things. And we'll help with that. You need some research on summer camps? Cool. We love to do the research. So we can carry some of that mental burden for you for sure.
Yeah.
And all of our assistants they're US based, college educated. They come from diverse career backgrounds. They're out of the workforce or out of the traditional workforce for various reasons, usually to take care of caretaking responsibilities. And then we employ them and we offer them benefits and we offer them paid time off. So you're getting someone who's trained and skilled and wants to be working and is reliable and consistent and loves researching summer camps.
That's fantastic. Hey, sorry, but we're out of time, and I enjoyed having you on. And I think all of your information, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Rivercity-va.com is our website. You can schedule a call directly with me. And there's also a guide on there on how to hire a virtual assistant if you are just starting to think about it and need some more information.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So all that information will be down in the description if anybody wants to, needs it, didn't write that down when Katie said that. It'll be in the description. So, Katie, thanks a lot for being on, and good luck with the business, and hope to speak to you again.
Thanks, Phil. I really enjoyed it.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
I think it really was an interesting topic. When I spoke to Katie before about a week ago or so, and she's talking about burnout. And I thought about it because I know so many people have experienced it, and that being a reason to start a business, I think is a good one. Um, but we're out of time, and I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll be on next week. Meanwhile, once again, this broadcast and all these shows are 100% financed and sponsored by Crunch Growth. So, and we'll speak to you next week. We're exposed to over 5,000 ads every day. We see ads everywhere. So it's no surprise that consumers need to see an ad multiple times before they take action. Our clients love us because Crunch Growth makes your brand stand out online. Our team creates content that makes better ads, better posts, better videos that break through the clutter. Crunch Growth's team has been working in the digital world since the dawn of e-commerce. From social media to advertising to Amazon management to web design and development to branding, we help your brand succeed online profitably. Contact us at www.crunchgrowth.com.